What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to my... Why am I doing all these? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then girl, just welcome to my channel. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed. As you can tell by the description of this video, this is going to be the Watts family murders. If you're interested in the story and you're interested in watching me, achieve this good old look, then just keep on watching. Today's story is going to be about the Watts family murders that took place the end of last year. Christopher Lee Watts and Shannon Catherine, last name I cannot pronounce and I don't want to butcher, both from North Carolina, meet online in 2010, fall in love, and then they are married in November of 2012. A year later, they have their first daughter, Bella, in December of 2013, and then 2 years later, they have a daughter named Celeste in 2015. Fast forward to 2018, they are now living in Frederick, Colorado, and they are expecting their third child, a boy. Shannon is due February 1st of this year, 2019. The Watts are living what appears to be the good old American dream. Both of them have pretty good careers. They, like I said, are married. They have a nice home, and on the outside, things appear to be pretty normal and pretty good until August. Shannon leaves to go on a business trip and Chris is at home with the girls. She returns August 13th at approximately 1:48 a.m. Her co-worker and friend Nicole drops her off at home with Chris and the children. That night, Chris and Shannon have an argument, which escalates to Chris telling Shannon that he's having an affair and he wants a divorce. The next day, Shannon is scheduled for an OBGYN appointment because she is at this point 15 weeks pregnant with their son. She also has a business meeting at work, which she misses both of them. And when her coworker Nicole that had dropped her off saw that she didn't, come to the work meeting, she texts her, she begins to call her. None of these attempts to reach Shannon are successful. She doesn't hear anything back from her, which is very much unusual. And so at that point, that afternoon around 12:40, she decides to show up at the Watts family home just to, do a wellness check, just make sure everything is okay. Nobody answers the door. Shannon still isn't answering the phone, and Nicole is becoming increasingly concerned, so she reaches out to Chris, the husband, and Chris is like, he has not heard from her all day, that they had a disagreement, so that's typical. He didn't really, I guess, expect to hear from her after them being mad at each other. Nicole then alerts the Frederick Police Department and reports Shannon and the girls missing. So the police arrive at the Watts residence at 1:40 p.m., which is about an hour after Nicole reports them missing. And at this time, Chris has come home from work, so he's talking with the police about, ways to find his wife. He's concerned now, and he's very cooperative. He gives them permission to search the premises. So they search in the whole house. They don't see anything disheveled, but they do notice that Shannon's car is there, her keys are there, her purse is there, her phone is there. Like everything that you typically would take with you leaving the house is all there. Her money, the children's car seats are both there. And so they are really concerned at this point that something bad did in fact happen to Shannon, Bella, and Celeste. But they're unable to find anything other than the stuff left behind out of the ordinary. So they leave for the night. The next day they return along with media outlets, the local news, and Chris goes on television and is pleading for his family's safe return. In the actual interview, you can see like the cadaver dogs and the investigators are back at the house doing a more thorough check, which he completely cooperates with. Meanwhile, Chris's girlfriend, whom he was having the affair with, that he told Shannon about the night they had the argument, sees the news that his family is missing. I guess he didn't mention it to her. Weird. But she begins questioning him about it. She said that he was very strange, especially when she would ask him questions about what had happened or what could have happened with his wife and his children. And so she expressed these concerns to the police. And then anyway, they always look at the spouse first. Like, that's always like the first person they look at. Like, girl, what you do? Tell the truth. Shame the devil. Investigators decide to give Chris a polygraph test, just questioning whether or not he knew anything about the disappearance of his family. And he fails, of course, and becomes a suspect. And with the pressure like increasing and all these folks looking at him like he'd done it. 2 days after the family went missing on August 15th, Chris confesses to murdering Shannon. But initially he said he'd only done so because she murdered their daughters. So initially he tells police that the night that she returned from her business trip, they had the argument, which he told her that he was having an affair, that he wanted a divorce. And she became enraged. She said that he would never see their children again, and she strangles them both. And so he kills her. He takes investigators to where the bodies are located, and all 3 of them are, well, technically 4, because of course she was 15 weeks pregnant with little Nico. So all of the bodies are recovered, and the police are just not buying his story that she killed the daughters and so then he killed her. After hours of being interrogated, he finally admits that that was not the truth, that when he strangled his pregnant wife after confessing that he wanted a divorce, Bella, the 5-year-old, walks into the room and she sees him and she's like asking, what's wrong with mommy? Is she okay? And he tells her that mommy is sick and that they need to take her to the hospital. He proceeds to wrap Shannon's body in a bed sheet, and then drags her down the stairs. Bella is following by. She's crying and she's like, what's wrong with mommy? And he just reassures her that mommy's just sleeping and that they're going to get her help. She'll be okay. They're just going to all take her to the hospital. So he puts Shannon on the floor of his truck in the back seat. And then he takes Bella and Celeste and puts them in the back seat as well, on the seat above their dead mother. Now Celeste is only 3, so she's not really too keen on what's going on here. But at this point, he said that Bella just became like noticeably nervous. She stopped asking questions and she pretty much just sat there in the back seat. He claims that at this point he did not have any plans for his daughters or really what he was going to do with Shannon. He just got in the car and decided to drive. He says that Bella is in the back seat just riding quietly. She does not attempt to wake her mother or ask him anything else. She's trembling at this point, and at this point they've been driving for about 40 miles, headed in the direction of his job, where he worked as an operator for an oil and gas producer. So when they get there, he takes Shannon from the truck and puts her body on the ground. Both of the girls are asking, like, what's the tea? What's the deal with mom? And he panics, so he takes Celeste, the 3-year-old, and smothers her with her blanket. Meanwhile, Bella is watching the whole thing. He dumps Celeste's body into a oil tank and returns to the car for Bella, their 5-year-olds. He says that at this point she is pleading for her life, like, Daddy, please don't do to me what you just did to Celeste. He then takes the same blanket and strangles Bella and drops her into a different oil tank. And after that, he digs a ditch for Shannon and buries her body there and leaves. He maintains that none of this was planned. He told investigators that he felt like someone else had complete control over him and he could not fight back. So on August 20th, exactly 1 week after the murders take place, he is charged with first-degree murder for all 4 of his victims, unlawful termination of pregnancy, and tampering with a deceased human body. In November, he pleads guilty, and the Colorado judge sentences him to 4 consecutive life sentences in prison for each one of his victims. Now, we all know that granted jail isn't a good time for anybody. It is particularly difficult for people who have committed crimes against women and children. So With all of the media coverage this got, like, it got a lot of attention. Everyone knew who Homeboy was when he touched down, and he had printed off photos of his children and his family and pasted them up inside his cell, and at night he would read books to his children, to the children he murdered, like as if he's reading bedtime stories, and he would often talk to the photos. That did not sit well with a lot of people. They forced him to remove the photos from his cell, but even still, he was being treated very rough by the other inmates, rightfully so. And so in December last year, he's moved to an out-of-state location due to security concerns amongst the other inmates. He is in a Wisconsin prison now in solitary, where he is on lockdown for 23 hours a day, and then 1 hour of the day he is let out for exercise and showers, and then they have to stagger it so that he is not forced to interact with any of the other inmates, because they are really at him. Rightfully so. He is allowed one book, and he chose the Bible. He said he has now found God. Astonishing. And he said he feels bad about what he did, and he plans to appeal his conviction under the premise that his conviction was somehow unconstitutional. How? How, my girl? How is it unconstitutional? Sounds like you got only half of what you deserved. This case was just so sad, because I don't understand, like, how do you strangle a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old? I mean, and no child deserves that, but you defeat your own children and your pregnant wife. All for what? Because homegirl is not trying to have no parts in that. So in the end, you just ended up by yourself looking crazy and stupid and raped by the men's in the prison. I just don't get it. People are really, really sick out here. This case reminds me of one that happened in the town that I'm in, which is kind of similar, but it's not. In this case, a woman with a very extensive history of mental health issues killed, I believe, 3 out of 4 of her children. She planned on killing them all while her husband or baby daddy, I don't know if they were married, was at work. And if I'm not mistaken, this wasn't the first time that her harming her children was a concern. It was like she was real paranoid that something was going to happen to them, and it was like a mercy killing. And she killed all but one of her kids. One of them, the oldest, got away, and I think I will do that one next. I said I was going to be done doing these kids, because children is just such a soft spot for me. Like, I get so sensitive. I'm such a punk when it comes to these tales with the children in them. Y'all just don't know. It makes me so sad. And then I'm like, I'm not doing kids anymore. I can't take it. And then next thing I know, I got a kid in the story again. I'm sick of it. Anyway, her case is interesting to me because honestly, I felt kind of bad for her. I really feel like her family and the system kind of failed her, because she was very vocal about her thoughts. It's like nobody took her serious until she spazzed out one day and just killed them all. And I feel like she had cried out for help a couple times before that happened. I feel like it could have been avoided if people just paid attention and took it seriously, because people really don't realize how serious mental health is, and it's just sad. In those instances, I feel terrible for the victims as well as the person who commits the crime, because it's just unfortunate. She's been on my mind lately. I'll probably do the details of her case next. Y'all know I feel like a look ain't a look without a popping piece of color in the inner corner. So there's that. Girl, is my palette expired? Because this color used to be way more popping than that. There we go. Now I'm just gonna hit the cheek with a little highlight. And y'all know when I say little highlight, that means a whole lot of highlight. I really hope you guys cannot hear Blue humping his teddy bear in the background. He's so nasty. And don't be trying to listen and hear it now because I said something about it. Because that'll make you nasty, okay? It's puppy porn. Put my little beauty mark back. 1 and 2. Somebody accused me of drawing them on because they were like, girl, you showed up one day and one of them wasn't even there. And I'm like, girl, it was buried underneath 4 pounds of makeup. Because this one I would always dig up, but the other one sometimes I'd just be like, whatever. And sometimes I would, bring her back up to the forefront too. So somebody tried to clock me that day and accused me of manufacturing both. And I'm like, honey, people still do that? Like, who even does that? Apparently they do, though, so don't be offended if you do. I'm just saying, I ain't know people were still doing it. When you do it, I mean, girl, do what you do. I am not here to judge. Hit them bottom lashes to try to catch them up with the top ones. I found my little fresh lip gloss. I lose this lip gloss like every day. I find it, then I'm like, oh, I've been looking for this. And then I keep up with it for a day, and I wake up the next day, and it's like the girl is trying to run away from me. Like, I cannot find her until I find her again a couple of days later in a random spot that I don't remember being or setting down the lip gloss. That is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.